I'm driving through Nebraska and I'm looking at a whole lot of nothing. So I figured this was as good a time as any to hit you with another Q&A podcast from the truck. I actually got 4 really good questions from a longtime Pathfinder member named Nick. And so I'm going to answer all his questions on this podcast. So Nick, this one's for you, buddy. He asked me 4 questions. He asked me about how to handle your mindset when it comes to missing workouts. He asked me about ancestral fueling versus modern eating and fueling for workouts, things like that. He asked me about book recommendations. He asked me to give him 3. I might have more than that. And he asked me about the vision for Packmule in the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm going to answer all those questions in this episode. Let's jump in with the ancestral versus modern fueling question. So he said, how would I compare and contrast it? How do I kind of make them work together, I guess was kind of his question. And when he's saying about, when he says ancestral, maybe how we adapted to eat earlier in the evolution of what we are now. And though there's, it depends on where you want to start with that. But what I'll say is, I think what happens with these kind of conversations and these kind of things is there are a lot of influencers and people like that catch on to like one little bit maybe of research, or they have an angle, or there's something that they want to sell you, and they throw this piece of information at you that makes sense, but at the end of the day is kind of a logical fallacy. And so people think that, you can't eat grains, or, if you have to eat a certain way because that's how our ancestors ate, or whatever it might be. The truth is our bodies are adapted for scarcity. That's how we got to be who we are right now. And so when you look at, if you want to take it back far enough, whatever early human species you want to talk about, cavemen, whatever you want to call them, here's like the little picture, the illustration that I paint to kind of put some context into this. So let's say you and a caveman are face to face. You have a cookie. The caveman does not have a cookie. Caveman's hungry. Now, if he can't barter with you for it, if he can't cooperate with you to get food, he's going to kill you and he's going to eat the fucking cookie. Okay? So they were not concerned about fueling. They weren't concerned about what their food was. They were concerned about eating. That's it. They were concerned about survival. And in our case, we don't have to worry about survival. God bless us. We have all the access to food that we would want. Some people don't, but if you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to go ahead and guess that you do. So when you think about that, there's like one thing that we've been adapted for, and that is scarcity. And so when you look at like all these different health outcomes and stuff when it comes to nutrition and everything, the biggest thing is just don't eat too much. Eat in a way that allows you to just have enough fuel for your body so it can run its functions and you can be as active as you want to be, or be in a slight caloric deficit. From a health standpoint, that's the biggest thing. If you look across the body of research, it's just don't eat more than you should, more than you need to. Don't put on excess body fat, don't get fat. That's from the short term and the long term when it comes to health outcomes. That is the biggest deal. And so when you look at what we're doing as hunters, as people that want something out of their body, we're looking at what works for us to maintain what we have, to build on what we have, and to fuel ourselves properly for what we do. It's a totally different conversation. And, there's the whole eating clean thing, all of that kind of stuff, where people just don't eat. They only eat fruits, vegetables, and meat and stuff like that. Some people, they think that you can't eat meat and be healthy. But the truth is, if you're going to get the most out of your body as an endurance, we're strength endurance athletes, and if you're going to get the most out of your body as a strength endurance athlete, just eating protein, fat, fruits, vegetables, it probably isn't going to be enough, because you're just not going to be able to fuel your workouts the same. So that's where, you know, if you look at the carb, the fueling for long workouts article I wrote, and I say eat candy, eat gummy candy. There's nothing wrong with that. You're going to metabolize it, and it's not like it's, I mean, yeah, you'll see things in there that people try to scare you about, like high fructose corn sugar, things like that, that say that you have that'll make your liver fatty, all this kind of stuff, which there's no research to support. But you need the fuel. I mean, you don't necessarily, could you get away with bananas? Could you get, and stuff like that? For sure you could, but like you also have to realize that, you know, you have to test what's going to work for your stomach and all that. And a lot of times the candies or the gels or things like that are going to be easier to digest, are going to be better for your stomach. So really what it has to come down to is like you can't put yourself in the same box as someone that was just eating to survive. We know what different amounts of macronutrients and micronutrients and things like that do for our body. We know that we need them. And for the most part, yeah, you should eat fruits, vegetables, meat, grains, good fat sources, keep your saturated fat relatively low, and eat a lot of fiber. Like, if you're doing that, you're in a good place. And then on top of that, you just need to make sure that you're eating enough for your workouts. If you're not recovering, then you probably need to eat more. If your performance is dropping and you're losing a bunch of weight, you're probably not eating enough. And we have to look at it from what we want out of our bodies, not necessarily these little slivers of things that people catch on to and try to sell you on. It's your ancestors they're not living in the same environment that we are. So really, yes, we have to deal with having too much. That's one of the problems that we have with society, is people just eat too damn much, and that's why they're unhealthy. They eat too much and they don't move enough. For most of us, that's not the issue. But if you're mostly eating fruits, grains, meat, you know, eggs, all that kind of stuff, you know, good bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, you're fine. People try to get too deep into this minutia of like, this one little food is going to kill you, or this is bad. It's like, you just, like, seed oils are an example. There's like no research that it actually causes a bunch of problems. Ultra processed foods, you know, if you're mostly eating shit out of a box, like, yeah, it can cause some health concerns. But I think the biggest problem is we just get too hyper focused on this minutia, when you need to train, you need to fuel for your training, and you need to enjoy your life. You need some of the foods that you like. Now, you can do that and maintain your calories at like maintenance, which would be whatever you need to fuel yourself with not putting on weight, or staying in a slight caloric deficit. That's it. If you do that, mostly eat shit that used to have a face or that grew out of the ground, you're probably in a decent place. And I don't think we need to worry too much about what our ancestors were eating just when they were trying to survive. And we also have to look at the adaptability of what we have. Like, if you look at different cultures, they digest different foods better than other cultures because they've just had them for a long time. They've been part of their staples in their diet for a long time. And so that's something that you have to consider too. So you have to do what's right for you, what makes you feel good from a physical standpoint and a psychological standpoint, and just don't eat too much. If you like the Mediterranean diet, or if you like however you like to eat, I just named it diet. I'm not trying to say anything other than just naming a diet. But like, I think the biggest thing is people cause themselves more strife than they need worrying about these kind of things a lot of the time, because you have a bunch of charlatans out there talking about a bunch of shit that they either really don't know it to the depth that they propose that they do, or they're trying to sell you something. So the biggest thing is just don't worry about it too much. You know, most people know what they need to do. They just have to set up the environments and the habits and the structure that allow them to do that. It's the biggest thing, you know. Set yourself up for success, eat to fuel your body, and make sure that you are healthy and active, and leave it at that. Don't worry too much about it beyond that. I really think that that's It's probably the best answer that I can give to that question while driving through Nebraska and looking at cornfields that aren't really planted yet, look like they're getting fertilized. And then there's the mindset question about how to deal with skipping or missing a workout. How would you approach that? The simplest answer is let it go. I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, the life isn't perfect. The program is there to be a very well thought out guide that is to be executed to the best degree that you can. But you also have to keep in mind that life is life and you're going to miss shit sometimes. And, I think the biggest thing is knowing what's realistic for your life at a given time. There's going to be times when it's easy to get 4, 5, 6 days a week in if you need to get 6 days a week in. I rarely program 6 days a week. We usually do 5. And if you can't get 5 in for a few weeks, like, it's not the end of the world. And to give context to that, think about, here's how long it takes for you to lose some given adaptations, right? So you would have to stop lifting for like a month to really start going backwards, an entire month. If you for some reason you couldn't train for 3 weeks and you went back, you would still maintain your strength levels. Now, would you be able to do quite as much in the same workout? Likely not, but you're not going to lose all your strength. Aerobic capacity goes about the same thing. It takes like a month to really start losing stuff. So missing a workout here and there is not going to set you back. You can just take it easy on that. A good way to think about that is, is to really look at your life and get the handle on it to the best degree that you can, especially at the beginning of the year, looking through the rest. There's going to be times that are going to be hellaciously busy, and it's going to be harder to train. So for those periods of your life, you have to redefine what success is. Maybe January through March, 5 days per week is no big deal, but then you get into the next quarter of the year, and that it's going to be a struggle to get 5 in, but you could get 4 in. Okay, well, you have to redefine success as with 4, and then reshape your priorities about what training you need to get in based on your biggest needs at the time. And so that way, you look at it like you don't miss a workout. Like, you've redefined success, what's within your capabilities, and you just go do it, and you just let it be. And that whole looking at the calendar thing, that comes from Dan John. That's something that he used to advise people to do all the time. I'm sure he still does, but I just remember it from a long time ago. It's like, get your calendar out, look at the different periods of the year when things are going to be crazy or not, and then just go from there. And I think one of the other things to discuss is, like, I think a lot of people, I'll take a step back. If you have your habits set and training is something that's mostly ingrained into your life, missing a workout isn't a big deal. Now, if you're trying to establish the habit and you're not there yet, it's going to take more focus, and it's something that you need to try to do the best that you can not to miss a workout, because you don't want to turn missing workouts into a new pattern. If you don't have the pattern established, then it's going to be more detrimental. But if you're the type of person that already has the pattern established and it's built into your life, it's not that big of a deal to miss a workout here or there. Even having a few weeks where it's tough to get your workouts in. Life goes on, let it go, control what you can control, and do the thing that's right in front of you, and then just let it be. Something else that helps is to really have something to aim at. That's my business partner in my gym and I, we talk about this a lot, and you look at the members at our gym that do the best, they want something. Whether it's they're preparing for a specific event, like us, like we're preparing for hunting season, or if they have a very big shift in their identity that they want to make, or something that's really meaningful to them, then typically people find a way to make something happen. Or beyond that, they're playing a longer game, and so they can see the arc of it, and it allows them to stay on track because they know that missing one workout isn't going to end their trajectory. And trajectory is the biggest thing. Like, if you see, say you start out with 2 workouts per week, and then you build the pattern to be able to get to 5, then you've increased your trajectory. But if you start out at 5 and then over the course of months your trajectory drops down to 2 workouts per week, then that's something to be concerned about. But like, the trajectory kind of goes up and down a little bit. As long as it's trending up or staying even most of the time, you're fine. It's not something to worry about. But having that purposeful aim, that's something meaningful that you want, whether it's an identity, it's, you know, being the person that you want to be for your kids. You have a big hunt, like, you know, you want to hunt until you're 80 years old. You know, you want to be active and healthy until you're 80 years old. It's having that meaningful purpose that does a lot for you to make it tougher to miss workouts. And then you have to think about defining what a missed workout means. Everything counts. So let's say that you know, we have longer workouts on the weekends right now. And some of them will get longer during the summer. But like, let's say you wanted to do a 90-minute aerobic workout on Saturday, and schedules shift, things happen, and you're not going to have 90 minutes. You're going to have 30. You're not missing the workout if you get 30 minutes in. You're keeping your trajectory. You're maintaining the continuity. You're maintaining consistency. And so being also being able to reframe success in that way and taking a realistic look at, like, okay, well, I'm not going to have 90. Would it be optimal if I did? For sure. But you have 30. So you use that 30 to the best ability that you can. And that keeps you from missing workouts, because a lot of times people get stuck in that all or nothing thinking. And, well, if I can't do all of it, then it's not worth it to do any of it. And that's never the case. You always press the button, use your time to the best ability that you can, and get in what you can. And all of that kind of nests together to, first of all, give you the ability to relax and just let shit go sometimes when, you know, your training is, you do miss a workout, or you have to make some changes. But if you look at your trajectory, if you have something meaningful that you're going after, you'll typically find workarounds instead of finding obstacles. And if you do have to miss something, it is not the end of the world, because you're not going to lose everything. Life goes on. That's life. Sometimes it's rarely, if ever, perfect. So you just have to kind of establish your habits, establish it as part of your lifestyle, and go forward. And that's really it. And that's, you know, that's kind of a good segue into the vision for the next 3 to 5 years for Packmule. I want people training year round. I mean, the biggest thing is to get as many hunters training year round as possible. That's the big goal. And the reason why is, there's several reasons why. I mean, first, it sets us up for success to the greatest degree possible for hunting season. You know, the whole, like, just prepping for the 12 weeks before the season or whatever it might be, it's not enough, especially if you want to go out and be ready, be really ready. Will you be better if you did a 12-week program instead of doing nothing? Of course you'll be better if you're consistent and it's a decent program. But it doesn't set you up for success in the short term or the long term if you stop and you take big breaks. So one of my goals is to really make year-round training one of the biggest, what people do. And I got asked a question a couple of weeks ago about, you know, why don't I think about selling 12-week programs and things like that? And that's the main reason, because I think it perpetuates the wrong pattern for people. It's not what people need. They need to train year round, both for their own health, their own longevity, to be able to get what they want out of their lives. And so we're as prepared as possible as hunters. And I think people get locked into that. Well, I'll just do this program to get ready for this, or I'll do this program to get ready for this. And then there's big, long spaces in between when they train. And it's not good for them. And I'm not going to do things that I'm never going to do something less than what I think is the best thing to do for people. And that's why I structure my business with subscriptions, because I want people to train year round. That is the main reason. Could I pump out programs and do all of that kind of stuff and likely make more money than I do? For sure I could. But I don't think it's the best thing to do for people, so I'm not going to do it. And that's why we do the subscription-based business model, because I want people to train. I want people to train year round. and I want them to do the best programming and hunting fitness is just what we are. And you know, to how to accomplish that is in the next 3 to 5 years, I want to be the absolute thought leader in hunting fitness. I want, you know, if I want Packmule to be the first name that people think of when they want to learn, when they want to train, whatever it is. I want us to be the absolute pinnacle of hunting fitness. And because, you know, I make this thing run on a set of principles, and I won't fucking break those principles for anybody. And we do this based on science, based on experience. I love to hunt, and if I'm the absolute thought leader in hunting fitness, I think everybody levels up. And that's why you see the amount of educational materials I put out. I don't just put out flashy shit and things like that. I try to educate people. I put out detailed articles. I do this podcast. I put out YouTube videos to educate people. I try to educate people with Instagram because it's the best thing for them. I want people to understand. People are smart. You know, I think a lot of times people try to market stuff based on emotion, and you have to. We're emotional critters. Like there's always going to be an aspect of that, but it's not just about ego. It's not just about, you know, being tough or being a part of some kind of tribe or whatever it is. And I want people in our tribe, absolutely. But like, I know you can understand, and I want you to understand, and I want you to be able to make the best decisions for you, whether you train with us or not. And so I want to level up the way that people think about training for hunting and the way that people think about training and maintaining their bodies. And that's the biggest thing. If I want to accomplish that, I will accomplish that in the next 3 to 5 years. And you know, I want to do more in-person stuff. There's going to be more in-person Packmule events, seminars, trainings, group stuff, like all of that's coming. I've been talking about a book for years now, and I have a lot of it written. And if you look at some of the articles that are coming out in the Packmule Journal, they'll contribute to the book. They're almost like chapters of the book that I just need to put more into, to edit into book form. And so all of this is to just, I want to lead the way when it comes to thinking about hunting fitness and outdoor fitness and all of it, because I believe in what I'm doing. I know that we're doing it the best way in hunting fitness, and that's really important to me because hunting means so much to me. I mean, I started hunting when I was a little boy, and I know what it does for me, and I know what it does for everybody else that loves to hunt. And I want to help maintain it as a cultural value, and I use my expertise to do that, because there's a lot of people that don't like hunting and they come after us. But if I can keep people healthy, especially, you know, folks around my age, the millennials, we seem to be the folks that still get it. You know, I don't know about Gen Z, and you know, we have folks older than us, the Gen Xers and stuff, that I work with a fair amount of them too. And if I can keep us healthy, it keeps hunting important to people. Because if you can still do it actively until you're older, there's a better chance that you're still going to fight for it as we age and we get out there. And also just being able to enjoy it when you're an older person. And I don't want that to be taken away from us, and I don't want it to be taken away from the younger folks. So the more of us that stay involved because we're physically able to, even if it's just like, you know, you get to be 75, and you know, when most people are sitting around doing nothing, you can still go out and hunt ducks because you've taken care of yourself. That's a win, man. And if you can keep going up mountains when you're 80, holy shit, you know? Like, I'm looking at this from a long game perspective, because I want people to keep hunting. I want people to continue to enjoy themselves, and I want to be able to do it myself. And so everything that I do is for that, because it's an incredible thing that we do that is very difficult for people to understand that don't do it. And I want it to stick around. So I want to be the thought leader. I want people to train year round. I want people to really understand the value of that. And so that's my biggest bit. I mean, the business stuff, like, that'd be too in the weeds for this podcast, but from a grand perspective, that's what I'm really trying to do with Packmule over the next 3 to 5 years. Book recommendations. He asked me what books I would recommend. He asked for 1 to 3, and why. Now, I'm going to preface what I'm about to say that I typically do not give out general book recommendations. I read a fucking lot. I read a lot. But I typically don't give out general book recommendations, because the right book has to hit the right person at the right time. And so typically I need to know a little bit about a person where they're at in their lives, what they want out of a book, all that kind of stuff before I tell people about it. But I'm going to throw some book recommendations out there based on the ones that have impacted me a lot in my life. I'll start with Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Sounds kind of hippy-dippy, but it changed the way that I think in quite a few ways. The way that he talks about these two different understandings, one's called classical and one's called romantic. Classical, you really want to understand how something works. Romantic, you don't care quite so much about how something works, but you just like the thing, and he uses the example of Robert Pirsig wrote the book about how he understands everything about his motorcycle. He knows how to fix it. He appreciates the form, the function, everything. But he has this buddy that just has this really nice BMW motorcycle. Doesn't know how to change the oil. He doesn't know how to do shit. He just appreciates the romance of the motorcycle. And being able to understand those two perspectives allows you to take a look at yourself in a different way, but also allows you to understand people in a better way. And there's a lot of other details in the book that, I'm not really able to pull forward right now because it's been a few years since I've read it. I've read it a handful of times. I keep coming back to it. I've read it a handful of times in my life. But it's one of those books that, you're going to take from it what you need to take from it. But from a high level standpoint, it gives you a bigger perspective on being able to understand different ways of thinking, and then also goes into a more granular perspective to be able to pull out details for yourself. And it tells a good story. It's a good story too. So that's a book that I think a lot of people could get something out of. It's not a fucking Sherlock Holmes book or like a Dick Tracy book or anything like that. Like, you're gonna have to do some work if you want to read it, but it's a really good book. And he asked about training. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I actually read a training book. It's been quite a bit of time. I don't really read training books anymore because my base of knowledge is really deep when it comes to training, and so I'll look at research, I'll look at things like that, but it depends on what you want from training. And so I think, all of Dan John's books are great if you want to learn about strength training and movement and things like that. Building the Elite's book is fantastic for putting a lot of different pieces together and helping people get a base understanding of training and physiology and mental skills and things like that. I think those are two great training books. I really like Craig and John. They've become, Craig's become a buddy and they're good colleagues. They actually preps a lot of guys for the selection course for the unit that I used to work with. And I really like those guys, and they know what the hell they're doing. So their book's really good. But as far as that, it depends on what you want to understand. I think, the Uphill Athlete book is good. I think it's a good book for understanding different things when it comes to conditioning. Joel Jamison's Ultimate MMA Conditioning is a great book. It says Ultimate MMA, but it's more than that. I've taken things from that and applied it in a lot of different scenarios with guys in special operations, with regular folks. A lot of it has influenced what I do with Packmule as well. And so, that's a really great book. It's got to be close to 20 years old now. Great book. But from a training standpoint, that's about as good as I could do right now because I haven't read a lot of training books in quite a while. And then, I think I'll throw a novel in there. I read quite a bit of novels. I think they're one of the best ways for us to learn about other people and for us to learn about ourselves, because we get to put ourselves in the shoes of different people in different scenarios and see all these different arcs that, are obviously exceptional because they want to keep us interested, but you'll see the arc of yourself and the arc of other people in these books. And so East of Eden, I think, is the greatest novel ever written. It's human. It's the most human novel ever written because you will see every part of yourself and every part of everybody else in that book. I don't know if it's a book that has to be the right time for a certain person to be able to read it, but I've given it to a lot of different people at different, not necessarily at that like critical point where I think this book is going to be the right one for them, and they read it and they fall in love with it. It's a beautiful book. It's actually a retelling of Genesis, but I just think the most pivotal part of it, the writing's beautiful, but it is human, and you just see every part of yourself, and every part of everybody else in there. And so I think you can gain a lot of understanding about what it means to be human, which is it ain't the easiest task in the world to be a human being. We didn't get an instruction manual when we popped out here, so I think it's one of those things that helps you understand yourself and other people a lot better. So that's the third book that I will recommend. I'm tapped out on this one. I think I got those questions answered about as best as I could right now while I'm driving through Nebraska, looking at flat earth and a handful of cows over there. That's about what's going on right now. So as always, I appreciate you watching and listening. I'll have the How Hunters Should Train in May podcast coming out soon once I get back and get settled in Pennsylvania. It'll be one of the normal I'm sitting down in the chair with my headset on podcasts with my notes in front of me. So that'll be coming up too. But again, I appreciate you watching and listening. I appreciate you spreading the good word, and I'll talk to you soon.